Good morning. If you all could take your seats, we're gonna get started. So I'm Geraldine Gardner. I'm the Executive Director of the Centralina Council of Governments, and I'm very pleased to welcome you here today on behalf of Centralina and the Metropolitan Transit Commission to the Regional Transit Plan Stakeholder Kickoff meeting. Today is an important moment for our region's future because we're launching the start of a visioning and planning process that will create a roadmap for improving mobility for the 2.5 million people across the greater Charlotte region. We've been working towards this moment for quite a long time, and each and every person in this room has supported it in one way or the other. Today is in part a celebration, but I'd like to start with a heartfelt thank you. Whether you're a technical expert in transportation and transit who has helped shape the foundation for this plan, or a funder who has provided the vital resources we need to do this work, or an elected official who has had a keen commitment to transportation and is willing to lend your time and expertise. Without you, we would not be here today. And without you, we will not have the type of plan that not only can we be proud of, but one that we can continue our collaboration on during implementation. This shared commitment to this effort reflects the importance of improving mobility, access, and transportation choice for our region. These are cross-cutting issues at the heart of economic competitiveness, quality of life, and supporting lifelong communities. We will be visionary and ambitious with putting forward solutions through this plan, but we will also balance big ideas with small moves that will help improve the transit experience for today's riders. Riders across 17 different systems, both public and private, that enable people within this 12-county study region to say yes to transit. So today we intend to lay the groundwork for your participation in this process. From leaders and colleagues, you'll hear perspectives on why this plan matters and add to your own talking points that you can use to communicate the value of this work to your constituents. We'll also review the outline of the plan, from its geography to what it seeks to address and your role in the process. We hope you walk away from this meeting with a clear vision for our work ahead to improve regional mobility and transit for all. In the spirit of partnership, I'd like to thank the team here at Charlotte Douglas International Airport for hosting us today. We collaborate on the CLT Aviation Academy, which offers regional leaders like yourselves an opportunity to get a behind-the-scenes look at the airport and why it's such an economic powerhouse in our region. The application window for participating in this process is open, so just a quick plug for you all to consider this. As a final logistics point, please note the exits of the room, and the quickest way out of the building is from the way you came. The bathrooms are outside to the right, and we are very active on social media today, so we hope you will follow the conversation and add your points. All the hashtags and social media accounts are listed on the table tents on your tables. So now I would like to get us started by welcoming the chair of the Centralina Council of Governments Board, Commissioner Bobby Compton, to join me. The chairman has been the commissioner in the town of Morrisville since 2011 and is a champion of regionalism. Bobby?
Thank you, Geraldine. Geraldine has been our executive director for about 14 months, and she brought a lot of energy and excitement to Centralina Council of Governments, but she walked into an organization with a great staff, which is what you'll experience some of that here today because a lot of their staff are here. So we have a lot to offer at Centralina. A wide cross-section of the region is impacted by transportation, as evidenced by the organizations and agencies represented here today from Lancaster County and Iredell County and communities in between. So I'm proud to serve as chair of Centralina Council of Governments, an organization that leads regional collaboration and sparks local action to expand opportunity and improve quality of life. We do this through creative problem solving, innovative service delivery, and support to local governments in a 9-county region, including upstate South Carolina, who is represented here today. We are so pleased to partner with the Metropolitan Transit Commission, the policy board for CATS, the Charlotte Area Transit System, on this important project that builds off the CATS 2030 planning effort. In fact, this partnership began in 2017 when the leaders of those two organizations came together to implement the region's growth plan, Connect Our Future. Back then, we were known as the largest metropolitan area in the country without a transit plan until now, so I'm very proud of this. The Connect project was a 3-year effort that engaged over 8,500 people, some of you here, to identify how we can maintain and improve economic prosperity and quality of life while being one of the fastest growing regions in the country. Transportation choice was called out as a top priority, and the need for a regional transit plan was identified as important not only for transportation, but in supporting economic mobility and access, housing choice, workforce development, and perhaps most importantly, the ability for this region to compete globally for jobs and investment. As the organization that led Connect project, we are pleased to be also active in its implementation through the Regional Transit Plan. Throughout 2017-2019, staff from COG and CATS met with stakeholders from across the region to better understand local needs for transit and the opportunities for improvements in infrastructure, coordination, and connections. The inputs over this 2-year period affirm the need for a regional transit plan and form the basis of what the plan will cover. Our staffs have worked together over time to host a regional transit summit, educate stakeholders, build coalitions, and identify and secure funding for the plan. We are so pleased to be here today to officially kick off this important project. A tremendous amount of work and coordination has gone into setting the stage for this plan, and this strong foundation is critical when a project spans 2 states and 12 counties with multiple funders and hundreds of partners. Companies looking to invest in this region often inquire about ability to move people, questions we hear all the time. Are transportation choices available for my workforce? Is that transportation reliable and frequent? Does it connect to major employment centers and other key destinations? These are questions that we have to be able to answer. Having a plan for how transit moves people in the entire region is fundamental for our long-term success. We heard through Connect Our Future that residents want a transportation network that moves them beyond their current options. Now we are pushing that vision forward with Connect Beyond Regional Mobility Initiative. Defining and implementing a regional transportation vision means allowing our residents to connect beyond their neighborhoods to reach more employment, education, and healthcare opportunities. This is connecting beyond traditional transportation options, making room for new technologies that create for efficient connections for every possible user. We also want to connect beyond our typical approach to partnerships to find creative solutions to bring this vision to life. Transportation is so much more than getting from point A to point B. It's creating meaningful opportunities for growth and access to anyone that wishes to achieve it. I'm excited about this project and am pleased that the Metropolitan Transit Commission and Central Carolina Council of Government have come together on this important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. On the program this morning, we have Mayor Charlotte Lyles. Of course, the mayor is very busy running from place to place, so we expect her shortly. So we're going to shift actually and move up our panel discussion. So I'd like to have our panelists join me up here on the stage. So we have Brent Cagle, Aviation Director from the Charlotte Douglas Airport. Kim Eagle, a Gaston County Manager. Janet Labar, CEO of the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. John Lewis, CEO of the Charlotte Area Transit System. And Kathy Pender, Mayor Pro Tem of Rock Hill. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your flexibility in moving up our conversation. So what we want to do with this panel is to set the stage for why transit matters to our economic competitiveness of the region. As we all know, we've heard anecdotes. Okay. Oh.
to you the trainer.
Great, thank you. Is that better? Whoa, much better. I felt like I was shouting into it before. All right, hopefully it's not too loud. All right, so we've all heard the anecdotes about why transportation is important, transit in particular, how it gets people and goods moving throughout our system. And as you know, our region is growing quite rapidly. So we want to just get us started, get our sort of minds thinking about what's at stake here if we don't do this plan. In just a moment, you'll hear more about the nuts and bolts of what this plan is from our planning director, Michelle Nance. And then we'll hear from Mayor Lyles and Representative Torbett on the sort of the political leadership that it's going to take to move this forward. But let's just first set the scene. Why does it matter to our economic competitiveness to this region, both in terms of the jobs and goods and moving people from place to place? So, John, I'm going to start with you as our transit expert on the panel and leader of CATS and providing transit services. Help us understand how Connect Beyond is going to build on the work that you're already doing at CATS.
So I think this is so very important to this region, particularly at this time. We're going through, as we all know, this region is going through almost exponential growth in terms of population. People like me who come from elsewhere, who have come to this region because of all of the great things that this region has to offer, both from a competitiveness standpoint, a job standpoint, education, and just as importantly, if not mostly importantly, quality of life. And so the challenge that we have is that the secret is out and everybody is flocking to our region. And so we have to make sure that we are staying ahead of the curve so that we continue to grow in a fashion that doesn't diminish any of those areas that we've outlined, that are attracting businesses and people to this region. And mobility is an important part of that. We don't want to be a region that is so congested that people can't get around and can't have access to opportunity. And we think that this region has been well ahead of the curve. And I will say that from someone who has competed with this region. This is my 5th transit agency. And when I was at other locations and looking towards cutting edge and how do you plan adequately for the future, my first stop was to see what Charlotte region was doing. To think about a southeastern city talking about a public transit system that supported not just mobility options, but really was a foundation of building a community and supporting economic development in the 90s and funded that with a half-cent sales tax. That was unheard of. And so we are well ahead of the curve, and we spend at CATS a lot of time hosting other cities who are trying to catch up to where we are, who want to know how we accomplish this. And the secret to the sauce, I don't give out the secret sauce, but what it is I think that has made us successful is the ability to plan and execute that plan. Execution of plans really, I think, is embedded in the DNA of Charlotte and this region of how we move forward. It's not just another planning study that sits on the shelf. And we've had great experience with light rail, with the Blue Line, the South Corridor. As I mentioned earlier, I've been here less than 5 years. I thought the south end of the Blue Corridor and south end always looked the way it did today. But apparently those of you who've been here a little longer than me know the incredible catalyst that the South Corridor light rail line was to that end. And we're seeing the same thing with the Blue Line extension, connecting the university to the uptown area. What we are looking to do is to create mobility options that supports a rapidly growing region and stays ahead of the curve from an economic competitiveness standpoint.
Thanks, John. And that sort of perspective on planning for implementation is really, really important. Let's shift over to Gaston County. And Kim, from your perspective, what are the economic benefits for the county in having more robust and regional mobility system?
Good morning. Thank you, Geraldine. Unlike John, I'm local. I grew up right here, and I've watched a lot of change. So for Gaston County, in terms of the economic benefit, I like to think about it in two different buckets, if you will. We're seeing tremendous development pressure coming from Mecklenburg. You know, ease of access is a critical issue. Folks are coming across the river to live. That is one area of emphasis for us. 74 and 85 are very difficult. If you've ever tried to come across the river, especially in the afternoon around 5 o'clock or so, it's very, very difficult. So we have that east side of Gaston County. That's one economic development angle, if you will. But the second is the rural parts of Gaston County. I don't want us to ever forget that many of our folks in Gaston County in areas like Bessemer City and Dallas, Ranlow, Lowell, we have a lot of development going on there, and economic mobility is a critical factor. Let me give you an example, and I apologize, I have a cold. My voice is struggling. We have several international industries that have decided to come to Bessemer City, and we've competed against places like Atlanta to get that business. We had a call just last week from one of those companies that said, our employees can't get to work. The bus system, you know, from Gastonia doesn't come to Bessemer City. What can we do? So looking at, I believe the term, John, is microtransit in terms of options for those folks. So we did some scrambling. We got the county access transportation unit to make a stop at the transit center in Gastonia to get folks living in the Gastonia area to Bessemer City for their jobs. These are really important jobs. This is what economic mobility is for people. The companies in Bessemer City are willing to employ these folks. That helps everyone. But if you can't get to the job, then therein lies your central issue. So not ignoring the rural side of Gaston County is really important to us from a staff perspective, but then also recognizing that there's so much attention being given to the light rail and all that's coming from the Charlotte side. So for economic development, it takes on a couple of different perspectives when you think about Gaston County as a whole. But the regional discussion is critical. We talk also a lot, Geraldine, about grassroots efforts. How do we help the everyday citizen in Gaston County, wherever they come from, understand the impact that having this conversation means to them? Because the automatic response sometimes is, it's higher taxes, it's going to cost me more, and we need to put it in different terms, because it's those exact same folks who are sitting on 85 every afternoon, and they can't get to where they need to go, they can't get to the job, and that translates into dollars. So this is an excellent opportunity to look at all sides.
Thank you, Kim. I think that point about putting people at the center of this process is so important. So let's look across the line to South Carolina. Mayor Pro Tem, tell us what you see as the economic benefits that this process is going to bring to your constituents.
Thanks so much for having me here today. We in York County, Rock Hill, are delighted to be a part of this process, and we see it vital that this be a regional process that finds meaningful ways to engage the entire region. For many of the things that Kim just described there, we have the same things going on in Rock Hill, Fort Mill, the Lancaster Panhandle. I'm here today. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of Rock Hill. I also serve on our RFATS board, which is Rock Hill, Fort Mill Area Transportation, and we have a different COG also in our Catawba Organization of Governments, who I know is represented here today. So my perspective is that we need to be an entire region about this. In the same way as folks in Gastonia care about mobility and getting places and complain about the traffic, that's what we have in York County. I think there's been a good bit in the news lately about all the exponential growth that has happened in our area in the last 10 years, and the projections are that it will continue to increase. I'm always thinking that what we find is growth comes, people come. Our task, and we feel competitive about this, and that's one reason we have a great region. I think every entity here feels competitive in going out, getting good companies, good jobs for our people, and having a system that works so that we can maintain the quality of life. People come here for the job sometimes. Really, they also come because they've already got family members here who love living here. I see people in my area that they want to be able to take advantage of all the resources in our region. They may live in Charlotte in their 20s, move to a Riverwalk in Rock Hill to raise their family, retire in Lancaster, and those are maybe stereotypes, but we can come up with any number of variables on that scenario. I meet people who've moved to Rock Hill because their children live in Charlotte and they want to be near the grandchildren. I meet families who come here because the grandparents are in Charlotte. So there are just a lot of different ways that people live, and they expect to be able to get from place to place. That's one reason they move here. Also, in Rock Hill, we have a lot of sports tourism visitors, and those people, they want to come to Rock Hill for their soccer matches. Maybe the soccer matches are also in Charlotte. And then they want to get to Carowinds. They want to get to Concord for the attractions there and throughout the region. We have the imagination that it takes to envision this kind of project and kick off this planning process. I think we can't underrate that. It takes a lot of imagination, but I think we're at the point, and maybe we can talk about this later, where our growth is giving people some concrete examples. The folks in Fort Mill, if you'd asked them 10 years ago, they wouldn't think that they'd have 2,500 new jobs in downtown Fort Mill, with another doubling of that expected in the next couple of years. And we, too, are already hearing from employers who say, you know, we have some gridlock outside the door. How can we handle that? So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Janet, let's turn to you, because what the Mayor Pro Tem raised was an important point around the mobility of people and capital and business, and that's really something that you all are focused on. So help us understand what you're hearing from the business community about their expectations for how we're moving people around the region efficiently and what role transit plays.
Yeah, so thank you, Geraldine, for having us here. And just for some ground level setting here, the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, we are a regional public-private partnership that's trying to advance the economic growth and health of this region. We are by state, proud to represent 15 counties in our footprint, so 11 on the North Carolina side and 4 in South Carolina. But it's already been said, you know, businesses really expect and depend that their people, their employees, and their products are going to have certainty in terms of time to move these things efficiently. The Alliance actually just recently conducted a survey of C-level executives and site selection consultants to ask them, how does Charlotte and the region sit? How competitive are we when it comes to as a place of doing business? And among our top strengths, first and foremost, was Charlotte Douglas. So what an economic driver and asset that we have in this airport that we're sitting in. Thank you, Brent, for having us here. And the ability for their executives and their employees to access international marketplaces. Second was the ability to draw professional and technical and skilled talent because of the diversification of our industries across our regional footprint, largely in technology and in manufacturing. But a few examples that I'll point to, since your question was really about the perspective that businesses, current companies and prospective companies who are evaluating the market, what has been their perceptions on transportation and mobility. So for Allstate, which was the largest single site project announced in the state in the last several years, a key issue besides labor availability was transportation. Specifically, they were concerned about millennials being able to come to their facility and their buildings without a car. So a key impression in the recruitment process was for our team to actually take them on the light rail just from Uptown to South End to show them that proximity and that reach by public transit. AIG, when moving their global IT center from New York to Charlotte, and the competition in that regard was Bangalore, or staying in New York City, their access to public transportation was key to their site location. For many of our European projects in particular, having a train system is critical. It is independent if they are located proximally to light rail or not by promoting our light rail system, even in our current limited form and not yet expanded, is often a differentiator for us as a market when we're competing. We had an Italian manufacturer that relocated from within the region, and they actually sited right along the light rail line so that their management could take the train into Uptown for meetings. And then on the manufacturing side, the Alliance actually recently did a manufacturing labor study that was released last month, about 100 companies employing just north of 18,000 people in our region. A full 1/3 of those companies cited transportation as a major issue for their workforce. In particular, our South Carolina manufacturers noted that most of their labor force living in Mecklenburg County, there's difficulty for them in commuting because the bus lines are stopping there at the state line for some of them. And then a high number of our Mecklenburg County manufacturers also noted that distance from a bus line affected the ability for their talent to get to and from work, therefore affecting their productivity.
Great. Thank you, Janet, especially for those statistics. I think it just underpins the reason why we're partnering with you all in this process and having private sector voices at the table. So, Brent, let me end with you this opening round of sort of scene setting. The airport is one of our region's foremost economic anchors, and it's expected these days that airports are connected with transit options. So help us understand how the enhancements to our region's mobility choices would help the airport continue to grow and thrive.
Sure. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here today. If this is your first time to CLT Center, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. And also, thank you, Geraldine, for having me here. I think that the CLT is a great asset for the region. It's a huge economic engine for the Carolinas, $23 billion annually in economic impact. There are also 20,000 jobs, people who work at the airport daily, but there are more than that. There are about 200,000 jobs tied to having a world-class or international airport here in the region. So when it comes to mobility, I think about, one, giving passengers options on how do they get to the airport. Operationally, one of the biggest challenges that airports across the country are facing is the success of ride-sharing companies. Quite frankly, all of the large airports across the country are concerned because the ride-sharing companies, Uber and Lyft, for example, are very, very successful, and that's great for them. But it adds all kinds of congestion to the curb front of terminals across the country, and that's an issue. Trying to have other options for passengers is key because, just like the roadways, you can't ever build enough when it comes to terminal curb front. We just expanded our curb front. We just finished this year, and it's already seen huge numbers of traffic, of users. So that's the first piece of it. How do we provide those options in conjunction and regionally with John and others on passenger choices? How do they get to the airport? The other thing, and this one gets overlooked quite frequently, is, and I'll go back to it, those 20,000 people who work here every day. How do we get them to the airport and to their jobs to serve the 125,000 passengers who come here every day? It's vitally important. Just last week, American Airlines announced, it was a big ribbon cutting, announcing that they had received access to 4 new gates at the airport. And in conjunction with that, they had made good on their plan called CLT 700 to increase the number of daily departures over 700 a day at CLT, which is great. All of that growth is amazing and great for the region, speaks volumes about how strong the economy is. But along with that growth means there are more employees every day. The number of employees who need to come to the airport to help service the passengers is growing very quickly. And some of those employees, right now, most of those employees use their car, right? One person in one car coming out here every day. Having those mobility options will make it easier for the employees to get here. And it also provides upward mobility options for those employees who don't have cars, who don't have access to reliable private vehicles. And so I think it's really important as we talk about it, we talk about what it does for the folks who work at the airport and the folks who work around the west side. You know, we just added, they've been operational now about 8 months, the Amazon distribution center down at the corner of Wilkinson and Tuckasegee Road, right there at 485. If you haven't seen that facility, when you're leaving today, maybe go down there and take a look at it. It's a huge facility. They have plans. Right now they employ about 2,000 people, but they have plans to grow to 3,500. You know, what's amazing is most of the property between this facility and 485 is undeveloped. And all that will be changing over the next 10 years, over the next 5 to 10 years. And all of that brings additional jobs and additional people who they need the jobs, but they also need access to those jobs, good, reliable public transportation and mobility.
Great. So we've heard from all of you to kind of set the scene, your perspectives on the economic dimension to this process. So let's get into a little bit of a discussion and kind of hear more about, well, I'd like to start off with, what's your vision for public transit here? And if you think about the 12-county region, bi-state region that this plan will serve, what is the vision that, from your perspective, we all need to be aspiring to? And maybe give us, you know, a concrete example of something you'd like to see come out of this process. John, I'm going to put you on the spot.
I will start since you have asked the V word. I think what we've seen, and certainly in the last 5 years since I've had the opportunity to be at the helm of CATS, is really the discussion about mobility and access have begun to meld in a way that probably hasn't been as a primary of an issue in the past. So let's take a step back to the whole Amazon dance that we had several years ago. And so what I think that did was give us an opportunity to really take a good look at ourselves in the mirror and really reflect on what our strengths and our weaknesses are. For the first time, a major employer or corporation said, here are the things that we're looking for as we're expanding into a region. And one of those top 3 or 4 were access to public transit. Now, we could check, had a great airport, had great educational facilities, access to major roadway, highway facilities, but we were a little lagging on the transportation standpoint. Great locations, site locations for that. And so I think it started a conversation that we hadn't heretofore had as a region. And I think that really brought us together as a region as we continue to move forward from an economic competitiveness standpoint. Now, we've talked about I've spent a lot of time discussing the 2030 rail system corridor plan, and we're moving those 5 corridors together. But really, when you take a step back, this is about shrinking this region. And so that vision about that is about providing mobility options for everyone in this region. That is, think about that individual, Kim, you talked about that lives in rural Gaston County, who might not have thought about the educational opportunities that are offered in this region from all of the great higher education institutions, because transportation and mobility may have been a barrier in the past. If we can try to reduce and or eliminate those barriers, we really take a huge leap forward in the economic competitiveness of this region. And we've talked a lot about the quality of life issues. Sitting in traffic is not an attractive attribute. And so as we continue to move forward, what this vision plan and what we hope to move forward is centering on the 2030 rail system corridor plan, how we're going to move those corridors into implementation, but also how do we meet the mobility needs of the greater region. That may not be with a train or even a large 40-foot bus, but we've got to find mobility options that meet a varied and growing need across this entire region.
And I'll piggyback on that, Geraldine. My thoughts are very similar. Having a unified vision, a unified voice for the region is critically important. That's one reason I was so excited that I was asked to be here today, because Gaston County I feel sometimes in the past has maybe not been at the table as vocally to represent some of those different perspectives for other counties, unlike Mecklenburg, that have that rural component. So options, not just the light rail, but what else do we need to do to help support economic mobility in the other counties in the region. I also think it's very important from a visioning perspective that this plan demonstrate success, a very concrete implementation plan, and that we show success as we go. Mm-hmm. There are things that we can do that might be smaller, much smaller than the light rail, for example, that can make a huge difference in the lives of the folks in the region. So I think that the more we can communicate, and the more we have a unified voice as a region, the better off we're all going to be. It feels like the federal government has that expectation that we come together in that way, and we're not as fragmented. And it feels like there's a huge window of opportunity here, given where we are with growth and all of the people being at the table in the room having the right conversation, but we need not lose that momentum.
So I think the points that you all made about vision are probably one that a lot of us around the room would echo. So, Janet and Brent, from your perspective, what's at risk if we're not working together towards that vision from an economic perspective?
Yeah, so another thing that came out of our survey of C-level executives, again, and site selection consultants was business empathy. Can a market understand the pain points of business as they're going through a site selection process? And underlying in that is just collaboration. You know, the ability to make sure that you as a region are making this seamless and professional for them to interface with and interact with when they're considering making a significant or even a small investment that could grow over time in terms of jobs and capital investment into the region. So I think, you know, the risk is being perceived that we are not working together or that we are not collaborating on major significant things like transportation. The mobility piece is critical, and I would echo everything that John and Kim have already said. And if I could just add back to the vision piece before Brent goes on to what else the risks are, I would just say, you know, let's leave some open doors to think about how we can innovate into new solutions that'll take us into the next era. So imagine if the Charlotte region became, you know, a playground for testing solutions and ideas and innovating our way out of these pain points of congestion and access for people who maybe it's that last mile, maybe it's the micro transit options that Kim mentioned, but you know, we should open up ourselves not only to existing companies who are doing those types of interesting R&D innovation technologies. There's a lot of smart, talented people here who have, you know, tremendous wealth and technology assets, but also inviting others to come and do that here with us. So that would be my addition to the vision piece of it.
Awesome. Fred?
Yeah, on the risk side, so I'm going to be fairly specific, I guess, about the airport and our growth. I think that there are risks. Number one, as a little bit of background, CLT as an airport, we are a huge connecting hub. We're the second largest hub to the world's largest airline, American Airlines, but we are by far the largest connecting hub in the U.S. And what's been interesting about our growth over the last 20 years is our growth was really driven by one company, by American Airlines or its predecessors, choosing to do more and more business through Charlotte with those connections. And that was really great for the region, right? And we've heard it over and over again, and I appreciate Janet repeating it. Businesses in the region appreciate having a great airport where you can get anywhere in the country and the world. And so that relationship that we had with American helped the region and the airport grow. What's been interesting over the last about 5 years is our growth patterns have still been strong. We've continued to grow every year, but what we've seen is, unlike the past where the number of connecting traffic really drove the total increases in traffic, what we've seen is our strongest growth area has been in local traffic. So the growth of the local passengers has far exceeded the growth of the total passenger traffic. Now it gets buried in that big number of total passenger traffic, but we've seen local passenger traffic growing at least at 5%, if not higher, every year for the last 5 years, and we expect that trend to continue. And the reason that's important is a really successful region and airport is balanced. Right? It's not too far on either side when it comes to connecting and local traffic mix. The airlines need local traffic to support their operations, and they also need to have connecting traffic. They need to have an efficient and effective hub. But part of that is having local passengers to support the operations too. And so this is an amazing statistic, and I throw it out every time I can. When I started here in 2012, the mix total, all airlines, the mix between local traffic and connecting traffic was 20% local, 80% connecting, and that's imbalanced. That is a imbalanced mix because it's so much heavier on connecting. In just 8 years, I celebrated my 8th anniversary here at CLT last week, in fact. In just 8 years, the total traffic mix has changed by 10%. So now we're at 30% local, 70% connecting. And that may not sound like a lot, 10% in 8 years, but it's 10% on a massive base of traffic, 46 million annually. That really speaks volumes to the growth and the success of the region. And as that local traffic number goes up, it makes us a much stronger region and as an airport, a much stronger hub.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, risks from your perspective as an elected official if we're not moving towards a coordinated and expansive vision of public transit for our region?
Yeah, thanks. I think that, like every place else, the risk is very apparent in being able to continue the quality of life, not for individuals, but for businesses, job creators. If people can't, when we already hear from a couple of employers who haven't been in the area very long, but they brought thousands of jobs, and they are asking, when are you going to make that road bigger? When are you going to do? And we all know that you can only make roads so big. You run out of that as the option. Recently, in the Panthers discussion about the development that they project, which at build out they project a $2 billion investment and up to 50,000 daily vehicle trips in addition to what we already have. The risk is that we won't be able to move people, and we won't be able to take advantage of all that this region has to offer. And you will have frustrated business owners looking for other places to go. So it's important that we use our imagination. I love Janet's suggestion that we look at transportation in innovative ways. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and to think big, there's a certain amount of risk to that. And I think everyone in this room knows, especially our elected officials, that we have to have not only a solid plan, but we have to be planning from implementation's perspective right from the start. And John, you mentioned that in your opening comments. So let's talk about some specific ideas that will help make the transit experience better for people in the short term. We have the grand plans. We can draw more lines on a map, but what are some of the small moves, maybe the more mundane, not necessarily the attention-grabbing headlines that will actually make a difference for people here and now?
Sure, and I think that is a key goal in this overall study. While we're talking about the strategic decisions that we need to make, we also need to deliver on mobility options in the short term and the immediate term for people who are looking for access to opportunity. And so we've got to be nimble in that. And that as Janet mentioned, I think that could be new technologies, looking for microtransit, those first and last mile connections to our rail corridors. You know, I could envision that we could have pilots in the next few years of autonomous vehicles, making those on-demand kind of services. But also, how do we start providing mobility options to very small communities? And utilizing the ingenuity and of the private sector in that regard, where we could have on-demand service that looks a lot different than what we run in CATS, but continues to make those connectivity options available to people. This is a key portion of the growth in our community, again, about economic competitiveness, but also about upward mobility for individuals. Transportation is an obstacle to so many people, and we've heard from businesses and anecdotally throughout this conversation, they're looking for employees. They have opportunities. The challenge is connecting people to those opportunities. And we think that this plan will continue to help answer those questions, and we can do that in the short term. And those can be additional express bus service into the region. That can be exploring additional microtransit opportunities to provide local transit service. And then, of course, the bigger questions and ideas of expanding our rail system.
Mm-hmm. Kim?
If I could add to that, in terms of meeting the needs of different populations, I think it's also important as we look towards short-term solutions that we go out and we get feedback from the community, and we make sure we don't always assume we know what they need. Inside the county government, we talk a lot about reaching out to our folks, to our veterans, to our disabled population, to our seniors, given the nature of the services that we provide, and understand to a greater degree what their real needs are in terms of options and accessibility. So I think it's very important that an element of the plan have a touch point back to the citizenry. We hear very loudly and clearly from our businesses, but I think it's also important, especially for some of those more challenged populations within the community, that we have a line of communication and we understand to the extent possible what the needs are so that we can meet those as we step forward.
Great. Anyone else have expectations around how do we move the needle now?
I think one of the things that has helped us in Rock Hill begin to have people think about transit and see it as an option is that in the last 7 months we started our bus system. That sounds like we were behind, which we were, but we have now have an all electric 7 buses that run on 4 routes, cover the major spots in town, and it has been a huge success. There was risk in our community in starting that program. There were naysayers who said they'll never ride the bus. Within the first couple of months, we exceeded our projections of what we had thought we would have in a year. So it has been very well received, and a success like that, for us, it's huge. For the whole region, it's probably a small thing, but I think it's important to have those kind of successes and to point to those so that people can use their imagination for the next steps. And all the microtransit ideas that come up, I think, in connecting those services will be well received by people and begin to continue to build that appetite and that and really the thought that yes, transit is a help. It's not for someone else. It will help us all.
Yeah. Sure.
I just want to add something here, and I want to take the time to, in a moment, to just thank the elected officials in the room who have been staunch advocates of this for a very long time. From the business community standpoint, I think I'm up here trying to hold it down for the business community, but I just want you to know that you are not alone. And I think something that Kim just said in terms of community outreach and engagement to some of those populations who may have not historically felt like they we're having services provided to them. The business community understands that, and the more that we can do to thread that needle around the prosperity for all piece, as well as what business needs. You mentioned, Kim, we've heard business loud and clear. That's great, but this is really going to take a team effort, and the fact that we have regional representation in this room is probably kudos to you, Geraldine, and your team, but also just know that, in order to get this done, it has to be the private sector and the public sector doing this together. So please know that you have the support. We just need to raise the availability, the awareness of communication of why these things matter. As John and others, Brent and others have talked about economic competitiveness, because some of the underlying risk is that if that investment isn't here, it will be somewhere else. And that investment is a tax base, and that tax base and income into our region is dollars that we're spending that help fund some of these other projects. So all of this is connected, and I think the Alliance can certainly do a better job in helping to thread the needle and tell the story. But just I want you to know that the business community is here, and we're willing to participate and roll up our sleeves too.
Thank you, Janet. And I think those points about collaboration and us all working on this together are really important, especially for those folks who are in the room who are elected officials, and for those of you on the panel who are, where you have to make the case to your constituents, especially if you're not the one taking transit, or some people in your community may not be currently served by transit or aren't daily transit riders. So keeping this theme of putting people front and center in this process, we know that transportation and housing costs are the two largest expenditures of a household income. In Charlotte right now, in the city, housing costs are only going up. Transportation is a public good, and we can offer public transit access and help control those costs. But John, since you're a service provider of transit, what are you hearing from your riders, from the people who you serve, about some of the barriers that they're facing in terms of being able to take transit? And how could you see this planning process of getting those voices into the plan so that we can be designing from their perspective?
Sure. I think one thing, the public transit industry as a whole is going through a really dramatic change. And that change is driven by demographic changes that are happening in this nation. We've got two very large demographic groups, baby boomers and lump the other group in millennials, that are really the two largest groups of people alive in the United States today. And they are driving public policy. From the perspective of where they're choosing to live. And what is happening, baby boomers are from demographers will tell you, are leaving the suburbs because their kids have grown and are left the home, and they're downsizing, they're living longer, they're prepared more financially for that next stage of life, and are moving back into the urban core. The same thing is happening from a millennial standpoint. But for very different reasons. You have that younger group of people who want to live, work, and play without all of the same burdens, financial burdens associated with car ownership, insurance, and the other things. And so that is what is driving the huge explosion nationwide of urban growth. From a public transportation standpoint, it has turned our model of service provision upside down. In the past, you had people lived in the suburbs, jobs were in the urban core, and people who were on the lower ends of the economic strata lived in and around the urban core because they had access to so many different public amenities, public transportation being one. Now that it's cool to live in cities again, the cost of living in cities have gone up dramatically, and those who are transit dependent are being displaced and are moving further and further away from the urban core. So from a service provision standpoint, we've got to look at different models. Now, people are also making choices of where they want to live. And when we query our riders, we survey our riders twice a year, and what we're hearing from them are so many of our, particularly rail riders, moved along the Blue Line because of the investment that we've made. But they're not transit-dependent people. They're people who are using public transit by choice because they're planning each and every trip. And the trip to work may be in public, utilizing the light rail, but the trip to the doctor or to a kid's game or to other trips may be in a car or in a car sharing service. And so we've got to change how we provide those mobility options, but also understand the changing nature of our communities from a demographic standpoint. And to Kim's point, we've got to make sure that we touch base with our citizens, understand what their needs are, meet them at that point, and not take for granted that the same old cookie cutter approach is going to meet our needs and their needs into the future.
Right, and that the stakeholder groups and the policy committees that we're going to talk more about later this morning that you all are a part of are a vital linkage for us hearing what is front and center on the minds of your constituents and bringing those perspectives into the process. So as we wind down our panel, I want to talk a little bit about implementation, kind of the elephant in the room when it comes to public transit and some of the big things that have to get funded once you are bold enough to create an ambitious plan. So knowing that our state resources are limited, our federal resources are limited, but we've got a very willing private sector and certainly local and local governments. How can we use this planning process to build the constituency and the public support to do both the small things we've been talking about that are really impactful in the short term, but also lay the groundwork for some of the big moves that are to come? Where do we start? Mayor?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
One is to make sure that our process is inclusive across the region and that we have meaningful participation in the craft group to make sure that we bring in all perspectives, not just to hear them, but to do the hard work of how you blend the different perspectives and needs from the various communities to do just what John said. How do you reimagine our system so that it does support the whole region? And I think that we continue to need to do that work so that we understand the resources across the region. From our perspective in RFATS in York County, sometimes that is a very, it's complicated because we all have the federal funding, but we have answer to different state governments. So in our part, it may mean getting even higher level folks involved on both sides of the state line so that we can actually have meaningful participation and look for ways to get both states involved in this process.
I would add, to the extent possible, the degree to which we can get stakeholders together and agree on common interest and shared goals before we enter the funding conversations. I think that would be very beneficial for us to be able to have a proactive approach and set the stage for really identifying in a meaningful way where we have common goals and where we can support each other from a regional perspective to lay a solid foundation before the funding conversations come. We're getting so many questions now in Gaston County around the funding for the light rail. Everyone is jumping to where's the money going to come from, how much here, how much there. And we really need to take a moment and be very intentional around how we come together. So framing those shared interests up front from all of the stakeholders, I think, would be advantageous.
I think it's already been said, but just accountability. I mean, we're talking about a regional transit plan. So just in our footprint of the Alliance, there's 3 cogs. So, who are we looking to, and how do we raise our hand, and how do we make sure that we are having those continued mirror conversations about what's working, what isn't. And I know that some of this is way above my skis now, but some of this will probably lend itself to some type of governance model. And I'm not suggesting that something be created today, but we should look to other markets about how we get creative in thinking through how they have been able to accomplish some of these things, and doing it in a collaborative way.
John, Brent, any?
I think lastly, I don't want to repeat what has been said, and I think there's so many important areas that have been touched on, but I think what we also have to keep in mind is that this region continues to grow. People are moving here for a reason, but their needs of where they live, work, and play so many times cross jurisdictional and geopolitical boundaries. If you live in Rock Hill and work in Mecklenburg County or Gaston County or any of the or Iredell County or others, we have to make it easier for people to be able to access the benefits of this region, and not worry so much about, well, our system ends at this line, you have to transfer it to another, and maybe the fare meter doesn't. People just want to be able to move, and we've got to create a system that recognizes the growth of this region, but also the shrinkage of the region, because people are living, working, and playing throughout the entire region, and we've got to catch up to them in that regard.
Great.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say is, thinking about all the different governmental organizations, all the different, 2 different states. And one thing I'll say is it always seems like it's a tough conversation around transit, especially when you get into the funding question. But I'm always surprised when Marcus Jones, the Charlotte city manager, started a couple years ago. He came out to the airport and he asked me, he said, "Okay, Brent, so what's this airport all about? Give me in a couple words, what's it all about?" And I said, well, number one, we're not about transportation. We're really about economic development, and that's why it's so important. And I would piggyback onto that. When we start talking about regional transportation and we start talking about upward mobility for the region, we're really talking about economic development. We're talking about the successes of the entire region. And that's why it's so important to start figuring these things out now and working across lines, because this is more than just, bus schedules and light rail. It's really about economic development and the continued economic success of the region.
Great. Please join me in thanking the panel for their words and perspectives. Appreciate it. Thank you also for your flexibility and stepping up to the plate a little bit sooner than anticipated in the schedule. So now I have the great pleasure of introducing Mayor Vi Lyles. As all of you know, the mayor has a 30-plus year commitment to public service to the city of Charlotte, both in her position as mayor and also in the various roles she's played in the public and nonprofit sectors. Her leadership on issues such as community policing, affordable housing, and transportation have had a profound impact on the city and the quality of life of city residents, both now and years to come. But the mayor is also a regionalist, a committed one at that. In my first meeting with her, she talked about her vision for how we can work together to move not only the city forward, but also our region. And that was demonstrated most recently as her serving as the immediate past chair of the Metropolitan Transit Commission. So we're delighted, Mayor, that you have joined us. We thank you for your flexibility in the scheduling, and we're delighted to have you share a few words about why transit and mobility is such a passion of yours and how we can all work together. So please join me in welcoming the mayor.
So I appreciate the ability to be a little bit late. You guys know this is CIAA week, right? So life as a mayor is really like I should be called the official hostess for the CIAA tournament instead. But I really am grateful to have the opportunity to come out and speak today. So I want to just get a feel for who's in the room. Now, if you're an elected official, would you raise your hand and let me see where you are? Yeah, Dr. Mike, it's good to see you. Larkin's here. Representative Tolbert, I know you'll be fabulous later on. So thank you all for being here. Now, there's Julie, okay? Everybody saw everybody? Everybody's hand was up? The other thing that I'd like to do is, how many of you work in a governmental staff position around this issue? We've got great teams working in this area, and I just want to recognize the professionalism that you guys bring to the table for the work that we're doing. And then how many of you are influencers? You influence people around this issue. Now, I know there are a lot more of you here. Come on. I see a few. There's some influencers sitting over there. I've seen them. I think influencers are the new words for people that go out and cheerlead for you. Maybe I used to say cheerleaders, but no matter what we are, and who we represent, I'm really glad to be able to follow the panel because so much of what they said just hits the right buttons all the way around. But I'm here to reemphasize some of the buttons that we believe are important, not just for our city, but for our region. And I always say that we, as a city of Charlotte, will be the most successful when the children in Anson County have good public schools. Our city will be successful when the children in Anson County have good public schools, because that is a measure of how we invest in the future for any region and what we do. It's not about us. It's about our children and our grandchildren and those that need the most right now. But at the same time, we're the #1 relocation for millennials in the country. More and more people are moving here. When I think about that, people will sometimes tell me we have 100 people moving, or it'll be 60. It doesn't matter. There are a lot of them. We're the 5th fastest growing city in the country. Now, I know some of these other cities are very competitive with us, but I really don't believe Seattle and LA are going to actually ever outdo the quality of life of Charlotte. I'm a little bit worried about Phoenix, Dallas, and Fort Worth, especially since one of our former colleagues in Fort Worth was in Charlotte, and he's taking all of our great ideas. You know, when I ran for mayor, I started out with the idea that if you worked in Charlotte, you ought to be able to live in Charlotte. And that's how we got to the issue of affordable housing. And as we began to evolve on that, we began to talk about the issues of having good paying jobs that allowed you to live in our city. But today, I stand here with our third leg of that stool because I think mobility is likely the most significant issue left on the agenda. You know, we've had great economic development success, and I think we're getting it better and better. We've got another $50 million on our bond referendum, and we're beginning to see other people adapt. There are lots of things that we can do better about affordable housing, but we've got a good framework. When the City Council retreat was held in January, it was all about transportation. But when we finished the discussion with many of the leaders across the country that Taiwo brought in to speak with us, it became mobility. And what mobility requires is a concerted effort across city, county, organization, and state lines. Someone once told me lines on a map are on a map. Nobody recognizes them. There's not any dotted line except at Carowinds where you can go to North Carolina and South Carolina and know where you're standing. All of the rest of us are in the same geography, same turf, same issues. And so what does it take when we are really changing the way that the government, the federal, state, local, have created these organizations and institutions that defined us by borders that we don't even know of? So it begins to look at what are we going to be as leaders. and the strong leadership that's necessary that will connect us to the future sits in this room today. Each of us has a part to play in making this change. Now, you know, I used to tell my, someone would ask me to do something, I would say, well, if I were queen, then I could just get out that orb. I've been watching a lot of The Crown on television, you can tell that. And I would just say, this is what I decree. But I'm not the queen. I'm not going to be the queen. We're going to start a good process that would make any queen proud, because we're going to start a process with the end in mind. But we're just beginning. We're going to start talking about mobility as a vision. We're going to work together. We're going to talk about our investments and what it means to actually have something that's significant in a regional direction. Now, you know, we've all got the component parts ready. We've got the blue line. We've got the silver line under financial, whatever you call it, you know, finding out how much it's going to cost. Estimating or something like that. We've got rezonings in Ballantyne that also include rail going out in that direction. We've got resolutions by the city of Gastonia, the city of Concord, the city of Belmont, all of these resolutions coming to us and saying, we want to do something different, and we want to do it as a priority in a regional way. I'm not sure that I've ever had the experience in all of my years of working here where people came and invited themselves to a party that doesn't have any idea of how to turn on the bright lights. And they're saying, we're going to turn on the bright lights for transit. The city will complete our streetcar line. We're going to be talking about how do we change our bus system from fixed routes. In a way, we've already taken a lane out, which I haven't heard a lot of complaints about, on 3rd Street. That's a bus-only lane. I'm looking forward to bus rapid transit taking place aside from the bus. I like to call the bus rapid transit for the managed lane project, where they're coming down on the managed lane. I like to call that bus rapid transit. But we have to create that kind of bus rapid transit service throughout our system. And you know, there are some small changes that we've made. We're beginning to talk about how do we do traffic signalization. How do we actually create places for people to park that makes it accessible for them to take mass transit? All of these things will make our system better. Wouldn't it be great to be on a bus where the driver just clicks and the light turns green? I think there's technology already out there, but we are going to have to make technological changes with this. And someone asks, well, why? Why are we doing this? It is about economic mobility. If you really believe that every child should have a great education, you have to have people that are willing to build their businesses and pay their taxes so that you can have good schools. Isn't that our American dream? That you have people that were willing to invest and prosper and share that prosperity by paying their taxes, of course. I wouldn't quite call it a self-sharing. You know, it may be a little bit compel, but although nevertheless, it's work for us. So how do we do that? As I said, every one of you in this room is going to have to be a part of it. And I think that what we have to start off with is the willingness to say, we will change. You know, we've had our half-cent sales tax in Mecklenburg County for years. But what works for us may not work for every other part of our geography. So what is there to be done to support transit efforts? What kind of financing do we need? But more importantly, before we begin to talk about the money part of it, what kind of system do we think works best? Now, I would love the new technology idea. I think I've been hearing about it for about 6 or 7 years, and I have yet to see that autonomous car. I've seen the ones that carry the little pizza delivery trucks, and that work. But I have not seen yet the major technology that people have been talking about. Now, that doesn't mean it's not coming, because one day it'll just show up. And so that's why we have to have an idea that's both a vision and an openness to change and understanding, to be nimble, to make things happen. Then we also have to remember how North Carolina became North Carolina. We have ports, and we deliver services and goods around the East Coast. We can't ignore the participation of our state and the portion of its economy that provides jobs and what's going to happen to those folks. I heard a woman from Duke University, not Energy, Duke University, say that everybody that's driving one of the big rigs now will soon have to become a dispatcher because the rigs will drive themselves, but they won't be able to tell themselves where to go. So how do we plan for that? How do we integrate with our community colleges, with our state universities, our private schools that begin to really take advantage and think about this as a people issue as well? It's very important that we engage as many people in the workforce as possible as a result of this plan. I also think we have to be open to, like, who's in charge. You know, it's not one of those things that's just naturally, it's someone's chosen. I think we have to be very thoughtful about it. We have to be prepared for how do we lead something, as I say again, without lines on a map. Who's required to step up? What kind of team do we create of people like you that are very talented to operate with a clear vision that this is all connected to economic mobility, economic development, and the people that live in our cities and our counties and our state? So there are a couple of things. We've already talked about risk assessments and all of that. I know there's a lot of risks. But what isn't? Progress always has risks. Big ideas always have risks. Now, some days I do feel like, and really truly, I feel like this is one of the tougher ones to do, because there's so many boxes already built that we're going to have to open up and decide if what's in them adds value. So I don't think it's going to be easy, but I don't think anything worth doing is really easy all the time. So I'm signing up. I'm signing up that this region can be one of the best in the country if we always keep in mind what we're trying to do is change lives, provide people opportunities for their families, a place for them to live, a place for them to work, and a way to get there, back and forth, that provides the quality of life we all want. We don't have that now. We don't have it now. From our bus system, the times, from where we place good paying jobs and good schools, we don't have it now. But if you believe in all the things that we say, the things that we commit to, and we begin to put it on paper, I know that it can be done. Thank you so much for your support for the work we're doing.
Thank you, Mayor Lyles, for that inspirational and outlook around why this work matters and, frankly, why we're all here today. So now we're going to move into some important details about what this plan is. I'd like to welcome Michelle Nance, the Director of Planning at Centralina, to introduce us to some key features of Connect Beyond, what it aims to accomplish, what are these 12 counties that we're planning in, And for those of you who know Michelle, she's been at Central Lina for about 8 years. She's been leading regional collaboration. She's also been quarterbacking this whole initiative along with our partners at CATS. And her leadership, her passion for this work, she's really one of the reasons why we're all in the room today. So I'm really grateful for her hard work and for her leadership. And I'm excited to hear more about the details of this plan. So Michelle, come on up.
Thank you. So I'd like to take a few minutes to address what is this plan? We've been talking a lot about a plan, what it will do, but I'd like to give a little more detail about who it will represent and some of the key features of the plan. And so for those of you that have been around a while, you know that the Connect Our Future Regional Growth Initiative, it set the stage for the work. It created a strong foundation for the work, but this mobility initiative is not just the continuation of any plan. It's really something new. It's fundamentally bigger. It's more ambitious. We're talking about something that hasn't been done before. We're crossing all the lines. We're breaking out of silos across organizations and departments and all the other little dashed lines that we've talked about today that really split up the region. This is the start of something big. The project area represents that. 12 counties, 2 states, as was stated before, 3 councils of governments, and 17 transit organizations. But we all know that transportation is immune to these boundaries. And the timing is really right for the project. In a region with 2.5 million people, expected to grow by another 1.8 million by 2050, the upstate of South Carolina, both York and Lancaster counties, some of the fastest growing in the region. And this new population that's coming here or growing old here, whether they're young professionals or seniors, they all have very specific transportation needs and expectations. The region is ready for something big because we've spent the time working on partnerships, developing relationships across geographic and organizational boundaries through important projects such as the Amazon project that was mentioned previously, how to get an I-85 bridge over the Yadkin, and now the Catawba, and the freight study and a lot of other projects that we've worked together on. The Mobility Initiative is about envisioning how individuals move place to place, across boundaries to get to work, to school, to educational institutions, and other services that they need by public transportation, or we'll just say transit. The plan, the mobility plan, is looking at a regional scale. So we're thinking about how do we move the workforce? How do we provide reliable, predictable travel times for employees, connecting hospitals, universities, cultural centers, and how do we keep competitive and attract the talent and the workforce that should be here and wants to be here, and make transit a viable option for people. The plan also will work at the community scale. So envisioning how the growth of local transit systems, of which we have many in the region, how does their growth impact the inter-county connections that we need to move people around? Where might there be a new maintenance hub? Where might we need a multimodal center to where all these transit communities connect? What type of land use policies may be needed to make this happen to support successful transit options? The plan is really focused on transit. And while we use the term mobility, things like sidewalks, bike lanes, scooters, all of those are super important, and those will be done at the local level. The plan calls for the need for those things to occur at the local level, but it doesn't necessarily go into fine-grained detail about those issues. So what is Connect Beyond? First of all, it will define a single coordinated transit vision for 12 counties and will serve as our North Star. It will guide the growth of the local systems and our regional investments and how we work together. The vision will be informed by the needs of not just the existing populations, but those that aren't here yet, those that are either not here yet physically or won't be here, they're coming from somewhere else in the nation or beyond. The vision will be informed by the needs of those folks, and it really, as we heard before, needs to incorporate disruptive technologies, things that aren't here yet. We have to be open to that. It will be inclusive of all modes. So yes, we've heard about trains, but also regional express bus, local bus services, and demand response services. The transit vision sets the framework of how we're going to work together across transit modes and geographies together. So the plan also will identify high-capacity transit corridors and build on the good work of the 2030 plan and other transportation plans across the region. Yes, this does include envisioning expansions of the LINKS system, but it also will anticipate the needs for bus rapid transit, future opportunities for commuter rail, understanding required steps to reach those goals. It's one thing to talk about it, but what's really going to be needed at the local level to make those things happen? What's the checklist? What are the barriers that are in place now that we can be working on together? What's the typical time frame? These are things we need to explore. These questions are being asked. So the plan also will think about how can we best coordinate. So again, lots of transportation and transit organizations and groups. We need to think about scheduling and fares. We need to make sure that using transit is easy for the rider. What information, programs, and strategies need to be put in place to help people not only understand what their options are, but how do we incentivize transit use? That's a big issue, so we need to be thinking about that. And finally, implementation strategies. How do we, in general, improve the mobility and access of the region, coordinate our investments, and have effective transit operations since our population is growing and changing? So what has to happen in the region to make all this occur for us to reach our aspirations on transit? First of all, we have to all agree on that bold vision. So through this plan, we need you to not only participate, we need you to help us with getting inputs from your local stakeholders and your residents to achieve a consensus vision. That's A1A, must be done. We're going to need strong business community support. We've actually heard that today, that they're at the table and they want to be at the table, and we'll hold them to that as we move forward. Transparency and community involvement is a given. Those of you that have been around the work of the councils of government, CATS, you know that that's of core importance to us. It must happen, and we will need your help to make sure we have the right people at the table. We're going to need elected officials. Again, many of you are in the room, both at the local level and at the state level, to take on the tasks of what comes out of the plan. Cooperation among local governments. We have to be able to work together, see beyond our jurisdiction, and we have to be open to discussing funding options that may be new and different, and we'll move forward based on each community's appetite for change. So in closing, we all know, and this is my little baby a few years ago, we know that this is complex. Transportation is complex. Transit is complex. If it was easy, it'd already be done. But that's why we're here today. We're doing this for future generations. We have to be thinking about the long term. It's difficult, but it is doable. This is our challenge, and I, for one, cannot wait to see how we meet that challenge. And I'm so glad and pleased that you're all here to do it with us. Thank you. I'd like to welcome Stuart Hare to the podium to talk a little bit about the Charlotte Aviation Academy and what opportunities there are for you to join in that exciting event.
Thanks, Michelle. I don't have a cute slide like that to share with you. In fact, all I got is an advertisement. It is our pleasure to host the kickoff meeting here today. Charlotte Douglas International Airport is an asset to our region, asset to our community, as you heard about. If you want to learn more about the role that the airport plays in our region, we have an opportunity coming up. We host an aviation academy every year. Because of the RNC in the fall, we're moving this year's aviation academy from the fall to the spring, and we are in the last week of applications for the aviation academy. It's the purpose is to better understand the airport and the aviation industry and its contributions to Charlotte and the region. So it's a real behind-the-scenes deep dive into the airport, going into the access to staff, into operations, into planning, into safety and security, talking about CLT as an employment center. We do a behind-the-scenes visit to the maintenance facility of American Airlines and their training center. Shout out to Tracy Montrose with American. We go into the national airspace and talk about the role that the airport plays in the broader aviation and airspace system. And then we talk about CLT as a hub. So it's a real chance for you to go from having an interest in the airport and the aviation industry into being a subject matter expert. We talk about it being a grass tops type of exercise. And we have a couple of alumni here in the room with us. In fact, Chairperson Compton attended. You were last class, weren't you? 2 years ago. I think Bobby really enjoyed it. I think he'll tell you all about it if you ask him a question about it. But would love to talk with you about it if you have an interest, or if your staff or somebody that you know in your personal life has an interest in the airport or the aviation industry. Would love to answer any of your questions. As I said, applications are due by this Friday. We'll be evaluating those next week, and it is a competitive process. We only have about 24 seats in the class, and so if you do have questions, grab me. Emily Parker with Central Lina helps us facilitate the Aviation Academy, and so she knows all about it as well. Thanks, Emily, for waving. And there's also hard copy applications out on the table in the front where you registered, and it's also available online on our website, cltairport.com. So thank you for the moment of time to place this ad with you, and I'll toss it back to you, Geraldine.
All right, so we are going to take a lunch break, and after you've gotten your wonderful food, please come back to your tables. We're delighted to have Representative John Torbett. He'll start his remarks at 12 o'clock. Then we're going to hear about the role of the policy committees and what you all should expect about your involvement in this process. So please, there are two sides to the line. Let's move through it efficiently and be back at your seats at 12 o'clock. Thank you very much. Lunchtime keynote speaker of introducing Mecklenburg County Commissioner Susan Hardin, who is also the chair of the MTC. So over to you, Commissioner.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry that I'm late joining the crowd today, and I'm a professor at UNC Charlotte in the College of Education, and so I had to teach my 10 a.m. class. So I got here as quickly as possible, but I'm here today to bring you welcome from the Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners. And I think one of the things that we're thrilled to see is the feeling that we're all at the table together, thinking about how we can work on transportation as a broader community. So we're thrilled that Mecklenburg County is one of many partners, and I just want to let you know that we're going to be good partners, and we're going to step forward, hopefully together, as we come up with some strategic plans. So I'm here to tell you that the Board of County Commissioners are open to that and want to move forward together. So so thank you for being here, and I look forward to the presentation the rest of the day.
So our speakers this morning have said a couple of times about the importance for collaboration across state and local boundaries. I also just want to take a moment to recognize our federal partners who are here with us in the room today. James Estes, who's the district manager for Senator Tom Tillis, is here. Thank you, James, for your leadership. We really appreciate it. And Kay Tembo, representing Congresswoman Alma Adams' office. We are in constant conversation with them about the importance for collaboration on transit, so thank you both for being here today. We really appreciate it. Now, I have the great pleasure of introducing Representative John Torbett. He is the representative of People's House District 108 in North Carolina, General Assembly that represents most of eastern Gaston County. As you all know, Representative Torbett is an important champion for our region and also of improving all modes of transportation, from highway improvements to new connections across the Catawba River and, of course, support of transit. His General Assembly session committee appointments include the Senior Chair of Transportation Committee, Chairman of the Appropriations Committee on Transportation, and Chairman of the House Select Committee on Strategic Transportation Planning and Long-Term Funding Solutions. So I could think of no better person to help us understand how we're going to move this forward, how are we going to work collaboratively with the state. Representative, please join us and help us understand your perspective on regional transit.
Somebody tell me the technology on this one. Can this be on? Let's try it. 1 2 1 2. For all the elected, can y'all hear? Okay, all the elected people in the room, live mic. Okay, I'm going to leave my sheet notes up here. First off, I bring you welcomes from not only Stanley, North Carolina, just across the Catawba River in Gaston County, but also from your state capital in Raleigh. And yes, we are no longer in session this year. And Dorothy was right. There is no place like home. So it's good to be with you today. Thank you so very, very much for having me. Let me jump right in and tell you a little bit. Oh, by the way, saddle up, strap in tight. This is coming hard and coming fast, okay? So what happened in Raleigh last year? In 2018, we had some hurricanes. And it wasn't long after that we did an evaluation of the needs funding to make up for road losses and bridge losses and washouts relative to the hurricane. Also, for the first time ever, State DOT was obligated to pick up and remove all the debris from those hurricanes. So that check came due at $300 million. We had typically appropriated $64 million for the last year of 10 years. Each year of 10 years, it was $64 million. And had done fine with that. This time, as we know, the hurricanes were actually a lot worse, and the flooding was a lot more widespread. So the cost of that recovery was $300 million. We brought that to the full appropriation chairs, and they, at that time, just didn't see the reason to act. We told them there would be a response. They said, we'll look at it in full session. So we rolled into 2019, a new session year comes in. For one of the first bills I wrote was a bill to appropriate $300 million to get those needs paid for so they wouldn't be impactful on either personnel or roads and bridges in all of our areas throughout North Carolina. That bill passed through the House, went to it currently still rests comfortably in the Senate rules. I use that, well, never mind, we won't go there. But anyway, but people started paying attention because they knew we were already out $300 million for the storm. And then this thing called the MAP Act, where judges' rulings, I'm not fussing about it, it's a good ruling, but it meant that DOT years ago had developed a way to carve out, if you would, property for future roads. Well, that sounds great. We need to do that in some form or fashion. But do you need to do it for over 30 years, denying people access to their property to grow their investment on their property because there may or may not be a road at some point in time? So the judges saw that as a taking and ruled against the state, against NCDOT, and that's the cost to taxpayers and to the department of $400 million. And it's continuing until that will eventually be paid out. We're estimating somewhere around $1 billion before that's done. But last year alone, $300 million in hurricane, $400 million for MAP Act. That's $700 million. Y'all do the math, right? Our total budget is $4 billion. So that's nearing 1/4 of our budget. So do you think it's going to negatively impact the ability of projects to be let throughout the state? Well, of course it is. And so all year long, I was black-headed and 30 years old when I started this last year. All year long was trying to get my colleagues to understand, and eventually did, the impact, the negative impact it would have if we didn't recoup some of those funds. So very at the waning moments of the close of session, we were able to recapture about $270 million of the $300 million. I think they just didn't want to give $300 million because I was asking for it. But anyway, that's another question. No, just kidding. We were able to come up with $270 million out of 300 ask to meet some of the needs, which effectively kept us from laying off the pre-engineering of projects, which would have delayed projects. We had 900 projects being delayed, so effectively I think we've gone through about 450 of those right now that will not be delayed. And we are continuing to look for ways to make up for the rest. So that's the current state of affairs. Now, you may hear every other reason, but the reason, honest to goodness, is you had $300 million for hurricane, which if that was all we had to deal with, we would have been fine. You add on $400 million for MAP Act, and if we could only deal with that and not hurricanes, we would have been fine. But when you compiled them both, $700 million was too hard of a hit to not have it impact all the rest of the system, i.e. roads and bridges. So we pulled everybody together, the smart people in the room, and came up with a solution, and we're moving forward with that. I think right now out of 900, it's 450 projects running. No engineers have been let off that I'm aware of. So we are working effectively to bring that back online. Good news. When I came on about 8 years ago in transportation, we were effectively doing about 400 projects a year. Being given the gavel by Speaker Tillerson, he said, we've got to do better. And I said, you're absolutely right. So my wife and I, who is my legislative assistant, were able to do that in Raleigh, thank God. I get to spend all my time, believe me, if you want something done, call her. She's the one that gets it all done. I just have a name on the office. But anyway, I'm getting bonus points while I'm talking about that. Senator Tiller said, here, you've got to do something. We've got to do something about transportation. So we went around the state and looked, and by our best guess estimate, we were about 20 years behind across the board on every mode. Now, I've been told I'm responsible for, if it moves, I'm responsible for it in North Carolina. And we're one of the few states in the nation that actually have every mode of transportation available. Ferry systems to scooters. So I'm responsible for that, and we have to effectively address each and every one of those modes throughout the state, which is what we were doing. At that time, when I said there was 400 projects, I said we've got to do much better to come up. Our port at Wilmington was bringing in $4 million annually. It was expending $4 million annually. Anyone can do the math on that. What was the net outcome for the people of North Carolina through the Port of Wilmington? So we effectively pumped some funds in there. We rebuilt Berth 8. We made a larger turning basin so we could get the post-Panamax size ships in Wilmington, which they told us that will never, ever happen. You cannot do that at Wilmington. Oops, they were wrong. Now we're doing it pretty much every week. We're getting the largest ships coming out of the expansion of the Panama Canal, and they're docking at Port of Wilmington through good paying attention, being a business, and approaching that need at the port through business. Also making that connectivity to where? From the Port of Wilmington. Does anybody ever know where I call our third port? We have 3 ports. We have Wilmington, Morehead City, Charlotte. Ding, ding. Now people regionally and across the state are starting to see the actual impact economically from the solid efforts that we've incorporated in the Port of Wilmington. I think it's great. It's an economic catalyst. It's just really booming. So anyway, that's where we're moving with. Now then, let's speed up just a little bit more. Just a few weeks ago, I wish the mayor was here because I was going to invite her to come up to Raleigh and go to the campus of NC State University, where just a couple of weeks ago I was very proud to sit in with the chancellor and the secretary and ride for the first time on a fully autonomous vehicle that navigates the campus and lets people on and off at various stops. Fully autonomous. I'll admit, a little freaky there for the beginning with. The vehicle was fine, don't get me wrong, but the people trying to turn around in front and everything, they're looking at it like, well, there's nobody driving that. So that was wonderful, and the people, as you get used to it, it become more commonplace, which by now, weeks later, it's been running every day, will become more commonplace. We're also targeting, that's an experiment run, We're also working with the Fed agencies looking at coming to major cities, metropolitan areas to look for, if they have like loops, for example, in Raleigh they have an R line, which is a free bus line that pretty much just loops the downtown area. Perhaps implementing one of those to replace that bus loop and just have it running around the clock. Also, a couple weeks ago, 4 years ago, I was in front of a lot of y'all saying Uber Air. You might remember me saying Uber Air about 4 or 5 years ago? It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. People be ready. It's the Jetsons. We're going to live in the time of the Jetsons. And everybody look at me like, this guy's out of his mind. About 2 months ago, I was happy to be at an event at the Highway Patrol test track, which if you ever want to take a spin around a test track, go to the Highway Patrol test track. Never mind, that's another story too. But anyway, they had a drone, unmanned air system, multi-bladed helicopter of enough size that it could deliver a package. And on this one, the package would be a human being. I was happy to be able to get in it and sit in it. Yeah, 2 human beings, but it would deliver human beings to this. This one was a 2-person carrier. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to wait till they do the XL model. I could get in it, but something was going to cramp, and I didn't want to cramp in front of all those people. But it is truly fully autonomous. It's a chopper, and here's what can happen. Can you imagine walking out of your home if you live in, say, a burb or maybe in a high-rise downtown, maybe go to the ceiling, and having some in your ride, you go up there, and it comes and lands, picks you up and takes you to a concert, takes you to work, brings you back from work, whatever. That's the way of the future, and it is here, and it's here now. Talking with the FAA, they're going to give us about a year of hopefully perfect testing to be able to put a person on that to do testing, probably for about another year. If everything goes well, you will start seeing those flights slowly integrating into the market as the market brings it in, wherever throughout the great state of North Carolina. It's the most fascinating thing I've seen. It's in my lifetime. It's in your lifetime. I didn't know that I would see that in my lifetime. But they're here and they're coming fast and furious. I told my colleagues about 8 years ago now when I was drafting the drone laws that we need to get something on the books because it's going to be under the Christmas tree of every kid in America for the next 3 or 4 years. And my colleagues simply just, nah, I don't believe it. But when I got experts to explain it to them, they understood it. And then we drafted drone laws, so we're protecting your personal privacy and your property through our drone laws. No other state had those as North Carolina did. The feds actually picked up and implemented some of those, and then we came with the operational opportunities from unmanned systems that's going on now. So that's where we are now. So we've gone from lack of funding to helped funding and emerging technologies that are coming out, unmanned systems that are just coming faster than anybody could ever have imagined. The reason they're not flying today, they're flying in Dubai today. The reason they're not flying in the U.S. today is because we have a Federal Aviation Administration. That's not a bad thing. They are there to look after our safety, and we compliment them on that. And one of the reasons we also are able to do all this is because we have great working federal partners through Senator Tillis, through Senator Burr, through the congressional membership, but also working with our federal agencies through their USDOT and working with all of them as a cohesive, a cohesive moving forward type of implementation. So that kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Kind of sounds familiar while we're here. The biggest problems we have typically is because we have an idea and a concept and we try to run with it, and there's so many blocks and hurdles and stumbling blocks and walls, and that we just end up coming back. I have that trouble with legislation too. And I come from a corporate world where used to I'd sit at the table and have your guys and girls around the table and said, okay, my God, this is our plan, this is where we're going, everybody go. And they would get up and go. It doesn't exactly work that way in politics. You sit at the table and said, okay, this is where we need to go, and you have 20 people around the table and say, no, it's not, this is where we need to go. No, this is the way we need to go. So what I enjoy most is getting the smart people in the room, much smarter than myself, and establishing a path, a direction, developing proposed outcomes, And then most importantly, action plans. How do we get it implemented? It's great to sit there and talk about it, but how do we get it implemented? And then how do we get it funded? Funding's not necessarily the easiest thing. But here's what I do know. When you work it and you bring in our citizens at large, you bring in those neighbors, people you go to church with, people you see in the grocery store, and you explain to them the conveniences that it will have for them, it will bring into their lives. When I tell people because of the bypass in Monroe, you can get to Myrtle Beach 30 minutes quicker, they go, wow. But that's kind of exactly what we're talking about. That's how impactful that one project is to people that live in this whole area. It will, same thing will be the Shelby bypass, for example. You're going to get from I-26 to Wilmington in about an hour quicker than you used to. What does that mean? You think economically that's tremendous. So that's what we're working on is, let's say, that working together, that bringing folks together to the table and understanding how all of it works. Two things going on. I was pleased, as it was said a minute ago, about one of the committees I'm working on about the future. We're looking at funding for futures. I'm doing that with my colleagues. I have colleagues from across the state, and I got to say kudos to one of them. Michelle Presnell, she's not returning. This is her last time she decided to go home. She's from the mountains, Burnsville, North Carolina. Tell you where Burnsville is if you drop, kid Michelle, if you drop a ball, it depends on which way the ball rolls. It could roll into Tennessee or roll into North Carolina. So she's that far in the mountains. She was with me when we went down, took a trip, and visited the port of Wilmington. She's one of my most outspoken members of the General Assembly supporting funding for a port in Wilmington, North Carolina. That's building that collaboration. So that's what I'm doing with my colleagues. The secretary and I sat down and talked some years ago. I said, I'll do the colleague thing, and you kind of work. Try to bring citizenry in. Let's try to bring the locals in. So he formed an NC First committee, which is looking on the same thing, using very smart people throughout North Carolina to help look at what is the funding model for the future of transportation. Is it going to be gas tax? Is it going to be DMV fees? Is it going to be the sale of new cars? Well, let's see. They're saying selling new cars is going to dwindle. We've already seen some signs of that because the people much younger than me aren't buying them as fast, which means they're not going to use the DMV or the fees, or they're not going to buy gasoline. So that leaves us with, actually, that doesn't leave us with any funding. So we have to look at different models. I'm pleased. We've scoured the states. We've looked at all the states. If the world was according to John, I'd prefer some type of smorgasbord model, like I'll have a little bit of that and a little bit of that. Let me have, oh, that looks good. Let me have some of that. Let me have some of that, to try to build that funding for a network of transportation, which is exactly what we are. I see my friend from Charlotte City Council here. We had many talk about a year or so ago. I spent 6 months of my life that I will never, ever, ever get back on electric scooters. Not riding them, trying to figure out how you define them. So again, we offered language to define them, and guess what we came out with? Guess what they're going to be defined after 1,500 man-hours, after 6 months of work, they're going to define as electric scooters. Great work. So, but working with these guys and understanding is that whether it's a fad, whether it's not a fad, whether it grows to be the next, who cares? People are using them. It's estimated. I could be wrong, but I read or somewhere, 40,000 miles of scooter traffic riding downtown Charlotte last year. 40,000 miles. That's 40,000 miles either a car, a truck, or a bus did not have to do. So to my scooter supporter, bring them. My wife won't let me ride. My insurance isn't that good, and I'm way too old. But I see people having tons of fun on them, and they're serving a useful purpose. So everything from scooters, 6 months now, working on that project to bring them forward and it's resting comfortably in the Senate right now. So we will work on that in the short session as well. But every mode we're working on. So that's what I mean. You guys have done it right. This process is at its beginning, not beginning, it's at the mid-road, I guess. Somebody had the vision to pull a lot of smart people together to find out the solution, to find a path forward and a solution, just like our founders did. Just like our founders did. I applaud y'all. I stand ready and waiting for whatever I can do from a state's perspective to push this project forward. It is by all means, oh, and I left out one little key ingredient. CSX, we are having meetings with them to see if what is available for access as they offload some line for commuter traffic. Rails are already in the ground. Why not access them? And just about 4 weeks ago in the district, I had a wonderful lunch meeting with the gentleman from Norfolk Southern. And they have decided to also revamp their business model just like CSX. Just the same business practice as CSX used, which means they may be offloading some line. The state of North Carolina, through the Department of Transportation, Rail Division, I've given them the stay on top of this. If you have to put a tent in their backyard, I don't care. Follow them wherever they're going about what's going on with the access to rail into ground, because it's much less expensive if it's already there than it is to build light rail. And it's a complement to light rail. It's not in place of light rail. It's a complement to light rail. It's going to take all types of modes in the future to bring forward the transportation network that we're going to need to service jobs, to service entertainment, service government access, get back and forth to the airports. You can get on an American flight. Bring back the tail draggers, though. I don't want to see the DC-3. But anyway, so we're working on all of this, and it sounds very, very hopeful. I will say right now, for example, there is, the state owns actually one railroad. Did y'all know that? We actually own one road. It's called the Piedmont Northern. It runs through Gaston County. Huh. Oh, yeah, that's where I'm at. And if you could put a train on that today and capture a little bit of line in Met, it can drop you off just short of Panther Stadium in downtown Charlotte. With enough working collaboration, we've already had some initial conversation about, we think we can almost, if not possibly, get it up to Gateway Station. Those things are out there today. So we have to develop and tackle the funding. We have to tackle how do we get our people in our neighborhoods, in our churches, in our grocery stores, in our schools, how do we get them to understand that this is a network of transportation. And without it, I would dare say you'll be looking at what we were going through for 2 decades just a short time ago, where businesses are more or less leaving instead of coming, where we have more shuttered space than we have expanding space, where we have more warehouse districts with absolutely nothing in them than we do have active entertainment areas that's supporting, back like when I was 20 or 30. So I hope you'll get in line. I hope you'll help us. Let's convince my neighbors, let's convince your neighbors, our folks that we come in contact with, that we have to do something or we are going to be left behind, because as you see, every other state, they're all focused on this. They're all looking at transportation. I came into this about 10 years ago, and I told then Speaker Tillis, so one of the biggest problems I see with transportation is just not sexy. It's just not, transportation, you're thinking roads and bridges. Man, those days are so far gone with light rail, commuter traffic, commuter rail, the new technologies coming online, your autonomous systems coming on, your vertical takeoff and landing. It's just, the whole thing is just so rapidly changing. It's absolutely amazing. I'm thrilled I'm living in the time I'm living in now. I used to think I wanted to live back some. I was wrong. Now's the time. And something else I've always learned too, the iron is hot right now. The iron is extremely hot. So what better time to strike than when the iron is hot? We do this now. We get this in place now. There's not a city in the Southeast or probably a lot of the Midwest that will be able to match us in another 20 or 30 years in the future if we get our infrastructure, our transportation infrastructure on the ground starting today. You can look at it. You can look at all the stats you want to. It will happen, and there's no other city that will be able to, unless they keep up with us, that will be able to continue that in the future. It's a joy to serve. Thank y'all. I could talk transportation all day long. Y'all wouldn't enjoy that very much, but if you ever need anything, please feel free to contact me. I don't have a rule that I just service people in my district. I am the transportation guy statewide. I service. If you're in North Carolina, you're driving on our streets. That's what my job is. And I'll leave you with this. Some time ago, they wanted to think about charging people to drive per mile. Y'all heard that? Miles driven. So they said, well, John, how are you going to do that? Because people don't want to put that machine in their car. They'll think you're tracking them going down to Joe's bar, and they don't want to be tracked going to Joe's bar. And how are you going to do that? And all the I said, listen, here's one thing. I have your odometer reading now. Every time you go get your inspection sticker, I got how many miles you drove. And they said, well, some of those miles are in Virginia. And I'm saying, hey, it's not my fault. Just don't drive in Virginia. But enjoy it. Please call me at any time if I can help with anything. I haven't seen you scratch your head. I assume I'm way over that. But little code. Love y'all. Y'all do great, wonderful things for the people that we serve. Please continue, and do it with a smile on your face each and every day. I know it's challenging. It's task. It's hard. But when it's hard, it's so much fun. When it's easy, it's not really that much fun. When it's hard, it's so challenging, so fun to take that next step and push, and push us all in the future that we know is coming. Thank y'all very much. Enjoy it. Come see me. We're in Raleigh most of the time. You're welcome to come visit anytime. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Representative Torbett, for that statewide perspective and also for leaving us with that important message of smiling as we do the hard work ahead of us in the next several months. So we're in the home stretch of our event this afternoon, and it's time to kind of get into the nitty-gritty. So John Lewis and I have the great pleasure of working with a wonderful group of colleagues who are very smart and talented and devoted to the subject of transit. So I'm really happy to introduce our next two speakers who are part of both of our teams. Jason Wager is the principal planner at Centralina. His areas of focus include public engagement, transit, project management, energy, and the environment. And we have another Jason on our team, Jason Lawrence, who is the lead transportation planner for transit corridors at CATS. He was a member of the Lynx Blue Line Extension Light Rail team and also performs bus service planning and public outreach and engagement. So they're going to share with you a little bit about what we're going to do over the next 18 months. So Jason, over to you.
All right, thank you, Geraldine. So we've heard a lot of information echoed this morning and today that we've heard over the prior 2 years. A lot of you have been involved in the Regional Transit Engagement Series since 2017, and this really set the path forward for what you've heard today. And now, unbelievably, I find it hard to believe that I'm saying now the real work starts, because I know that a lot of you in the room have already put a lot of work in, and we're happy to be here. So we know that ultimately we want thriving communities. Thriving communities make for a successful and vibrant region. But that really is going to start with the work that we're talking about here and now. And I think in 2 decades of work that I've been involved in my career, I've not seen a more ripe moment or a more poignant time. I think the term strike while the iron is hot was just used. Absolutely seems to be the case. And I'm glad to be part of it. So wanted to very briefly, and then I'll turn things over to Jason Lawrence in a second to further elaborate, but just set up kind of what this project, the project teams, and what to expect coming up are all about. So I guess first off, we've got project sponsors, and these are the folks that we really are looking to be sure that we have the resources, the funding, the guidance we need to be strategically on target. And so I would challenge each of you, if you see opportunities or potential pitfalls as we proceed over the next several months of this project, be in touch with them. Let them know that their job is really to keep us on track on the big picture items. So we are glad to have them as our sponsors, and they do serve a very important role and function. Also, a project management team, and our job is day to day to make sure that we're going after and executing the regional transit plan deliverables, tasks, meeting milestones within funding and so forth that we've been asked to do, that again the region has asked us to take on over the last 2 years, but making sure we do this in a very effective and efficient manner. And I do want to mention too, we're glad to have Bob Cook, who's back here, joining the project team as our MPO liaison. We've got a lot of important funding partners, many of which are the MPOs, so it's really important that we have their voice day to day, week to week at the table so that we're sure that we're proceeding appropriately. And then I do want to take, and this has been a really long time in coming. I'm happy to announce our consultant team. Here they are, and Jorge, Sabrina, Kevin, you're in the back. Just stand up. This is at least 6 months, if not more, of activity and effort, a competitive RFQ process, selection committees, so on and so forth, that have gone into getting us to this point. It was a regional committee and they reviewed, so we were really happy to go through that process. It was strong competition, but I will say that this team really emerged at the top and has done a great job with us so far. They really do a couple things that stand out among many, but a couple things that stand out is this team is predominantly from this region. They take transit day to day. They know what's going on in the region. And they really do bring an authenticity and sincerity to making this region better. So we think that's really going to be important. And then the other thing that they've really picked up on and emphasized and gotten that we've heard over and over is the importance of engagement and involvement in the community, groups like this. That emphasis is important, and they get it and they do it well. So we're happy to have them. All right, so committees and roles. We've got several groups. A couple of you have been asked here today, the technical and policy committees. You can, just by reading the slide, you can kind of get a feel for what they would cover. Overall, we know that it's important that as we develop these, and we've been doing this and we'll continue to do so, that they're balanced geographically, both counties, states, North Carolina, South Carolina, that we've got a variety of perspectives. We've even looked to be sure that if an individual already has another role on another transportation or transit group, maybe they're a good person to be involved with us. So you might be here because of that, because you can provide some linkages to other areas. Of course, rural and urban interests are important, and we've wanted to make sure that those were covered as well. Generally, that diversity of perspectives. So the other thing that we will look to you for is guiding us, and this is specific to the policy and technical committees, is guiding us on the plan's development and being sure that we're on track and on target. Are we asking the right questions? Are we talking to the right people? You've heard it already today, but I can't underscore it enough. We're going to really look back to you. What are the groups that are already meeting and doing good work that we just need to be in touch with? Who is out there already doing great work? And by the way, what are some sensitivities that we should be aware of as we proceed to be sure that we're not, stumbling into others? So those are all going to be important. This cross-coordination is also going to be important, that we think is going to come out of several opportunities, one of which will include this Regional Transit Academy. I wanted to mention that because we think this is going to be an opportunity for all committees and other stakeholders across the region to get together. We've heard repeatedly that it's important for us to raise the bar in terms of our education level, everything from technologies, what's the appropriate technology, sort of being able to speak Transit 201 and 301 here in the region, but also to hear from peer regions and experts, have them in, and don't bring someone in from another region and speak to 20 people. Make that a little bit bigger. Make sure that everyone's hearing that information and when we're all gaining from it. So we really are looking forward to this academy helping to integrate across committees. The other thing I'll say about the Community Advisory Committee, that's still in process. We know that folks like you and others are going to have really good ideas of who should be involved as we go forward. You can see the types of groups and organizations that we want to have around the table, but we will certainly be reaching back out to you early on. A couple of other high-level points with the committees. We will be doing what we're calling working agreements, so there will be more details about, what's your charge, who's involved, how much to expect in terms of your time commitment. We know offhand to start with that we're thinking the policy committee will meet 4 to 6 times per year over the life of this. What we're thinking is at this time set to be an 18-month plan. Similarly, the technical group may go more like 5 to 7 times, just a little bit more. We also know that we might need very targeted, temporary, what we're calling subject matter working groups. So, for instance, transportation demand management is a good example of a topic that needs a focused attention, and that might be some other folks that aren't on any of the committees, some of you on some of these committees, but coming together to hammer out some of the details as we go forward. So, a lot of ways to plug in, and we hope that there will be a way for everyone. And then, of course, like I said, if you're not part of a committee, those of you on committees can get us connected to the right people, and we can bring them in. So I think those are the high-level points I wanted to bring up, and I guess now turn it over to JL to talk a little bit more about the schedule.
Thank you, Jason. He actually called me by my nickname, JL. That goes back to a memory of a time when I was 5 people on a cross-country team in high school, and 3 of us were called Jason. I think the coach just called us all Jason just to keep it simple. Something about the 70s and Jasons. It must have been some movie or something, but definitely a really popular name at the time. But Jason Lawrence with Charlotte Area Transit System, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our schedule, because I think we've talked a lot about the high-level stuff, but at some point, you got to talk about how we're going to do this, when we're going to do it, and what are some of the deliverables that we're going to have with this effort. So over the next 18 months, we'll be working and coordinating with you all in the room and the public, going out across 12 counties and 2 states. But up first, it's goals and visioning. We've already done a lot of that already, but we're going to take a deeper dive on that piece as we go and do dialogue to all the constituencies throughout this area. We'll do a system evaluation after that. That's looking at all the transit systems that already are in existence within our region. So CATS and ICATS, Gastonia Transit, Salisbury Transit, all the human services transportation groups that are out there. How are they using data? What does their data look like? How can we bring that all together to understand how we can better connect with one another? And then what is the identification of those high-capacity transit corridors? So where can light rail extensions potentially go? Where can bus rapid transit be within our area? What about those commuter rail networks that could potentially go to the Charlotte Gateway Station? Those will be the first things as we go into this effort. And then we'll go into integrated bus services strategies. What does that service planning look like as we look to connect potential transit agencies and transit systems across our borders? And then look at transportation and travel demand management strategies. What are those things that we can do to think innovatively about the development community, and about how they can buy fares or work with new technologies and emerging microtransit or on-demand type of services. And what are those land use opportunities that we see throughout the region? Because in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, our original plan was called the 2025 Transit and Land Use Plan, and land use is such a big piece of this. What are the transit supportive decisions that could be made from the land use and development side across the region? And then those human services and community connections. What about going to hospital visits and all the veteran type of services across our communities? How can they better connect across counties? And then towards the end of the effort, moving forward, we'll have a lot of discussions about all these different ideas and visions, but at some point, we have to find strategies to implement this plan across borders. And of course, throughout the entire effort, we'll have public involvement and stakeholder outreach. That'll be critical to the success of this or any other planning effort. So first, I will talk a little bit about the goals and envisioning phase of this. That'll be our first couple of months as we get into this effort. But we already have learned so much over the past couple of years in us going out to the region. A lot of you were in those stakeholder interviews, so we have already compiled a good deal of information. So we're going to start there. But we'll be doing some initial public and stakeholder outreach where we'll be talking to each of your communities about their local community character, meet people where they are. I'm not expecting people to come to us. We're going to go to you. What are the mobility needs? Is it access to high-capacity transit services to downtown Charlotte or other high-growth employment centers? Or is it more that human services type of transportation needs? Let's gather some data, but what does that data tell us? Through some public survey, travel patterns, people are moving all across this region in different ways. It's just not how to get to downtown Charlotte, but it is all across our different boundaries and all the other local mobility services that are out there. Let's get that data and talk to different transit agencies and see what we can gather. And ultimately, to be successful, the plan does need to be a local plan that's regional. And so, understanding those local values, so at the end of this, when we get to 18 months from now, we can tie it back to what we learned in the very first phases. But that coordination would be critical to the success of this effort as CATS, as we look to expand and complete our 2030 transit system plan with the Lynx Silver Line, our North Corridor, and extensions over to Ballantyne and Pineville with the Lynx Blue Line. And then getting into the metropolitan transportation plans across all the MPOs and RPOs, comprehensive transportation planning. How do we have that unified transit vision, make sure that it's in all those coordinated efforts? And then the Charlotte Gateway Station, where as we look to work with the state and federal partners to build a new regional intercity train hub in downtown Charlotte to connect all these future commuter rails. How does all that interplay with what will be the regional transportation plan? And ultimately, I didn't want to be outdone by Michelle, but being a new father and getting into this much later than a lot of the people that I grew up with, started thinking about where will I be in 10 years and will Parker be in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years. But ultimately, for this plan to be successful, then we need to think about this plan as it goes through the different phases of life that everybody will be in over time. So where will you be in 10 years? Where will you be in 20 years? What will your parents be in 30 years? And how do we start thinking about the person that may want to age in place, the veteran that's trying to get to the VA hospital in Salisbury or Charlotte, or all the different types of phases that we'll be in, and how does this plan make sure that we're answering those kinds of questions? We talked a lot about borders today and try not to think about borders. I got a map in front of you that has no borders except for the state line. And we have all these corridors that connect us across from Charlotte over to Kannapolis and Landis and China Grove and over to Kings Mountain throughout. And these interstates and these transportation corridors really do connect us as a region. So in some sense, we already are a region in the sense of transportation modes, and we do hope this plan can start to bring that together in a more transit sense. But to put some perspective of the places that are in here and their proximity to one of the hubs of this effort in downtown Charlotte, 485 UNC Charlotte is about the same distance as the city of Belmont from uptown, and Indian Trail and Fort Mill are roughly about the same distance from uptown Charlotte. And then in 20-mile radius, you got Davidson and Concord, Rock Hill and Monroe are 25 miles, and Gastonia and 20. So just because we have borders in between us, with Davidson being the same distance as uptown Charlotte as the city of Gastonia. So in the sense of a regional plan, a lot of these numbers do start to make sense for us as we look at the different modes that can connect us, light rail, commuter rail, and bus rapid transit. And then as we scale out to look at the full extent of this effort, think about the Shelby and Lincolnton, Statesville, Albemarle, Salisbury, and Wadesboro in Anson County are all a part of this effort, but it's ultimately not the distance from uptown Charlotte that will be important for this. It is the connections in between each of us, because this is not just a solely Charlotte plan. This is a regional plan about connections between each of our communities. And with that, I'll hand this over to Geraldine or John. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so hopefully everyone has somewhat of a clear vision of where we're headed and what those major milestones are. how you'll be working with each other. I think I can speak on behalf of John that please come to us with your suggestions and your ideas. You know, we really want to live the values of collaboration that we've been talking about here today. So before I turn it over to John to close this out, I just want to express my appreciation and thanks to all of you for being in the room. This is a great turnout. I hope at our next meeting, when we really start to roll up our sleeves and get into the weeds on this, that we see many of you also back in the room. As I came to this region just about a year ago, I think I was probably 24 hours in the office before Michelle started telling me about this project and about all the effort that we have gone to planning such a thoughtful process. And frankly, it was one of the reasons why I wanted to come to this region, because it was growing, because it was thriving, because it was innovative, and because we had such a great opportunity to collaborate. So a lot of work has gotten us to this point, but there's a long way to go to make sure we get to a plan that we can all be proud of, and more importantly, that we can implement together. So one of the individuals that has really been hand in hand, lockstep with our team and with Michelle is John Muth. He is the Deputy Director for Development and the Chief Development Officer at CATS. Under John's leadership, the Development Division of CATS has been in the lead for planning and creating Charlotte's rapid transit system, an integral part of the sustainable development of our region. So to close us out and to offer us some perspective as we look ahead, I'd like to turn it over to John. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine. And I also want to thank everyone for being here today, and I want to thank the speakers, thank all the city staff, CAT staff, COG staff, and certainly HDR, our consultant team, for all the work that you've done to get us to this place today. So I was asked to share my perspective on the importance of this regional transit plan effort that we're kicking off today. So back in 1998, I was fortunate enough to be involved in the preparation of the 2025 Transit and Land Use Plan. And as we've been working on this effort, I see some real parallels between that effort back in 1998 and then what we're talking about undertaking today. The 1998 effort was a relatively low-cost study, about $700,000, and took us about 9 months. However, the payoff over the past 20 years of that work has been tremendous. The 1998 plan gave the voters of Mecklenburg County a vision of what might be realized if they approved a 0.5% sales tax dedicated to public transportation. And so that sales tax was approved in November of 98 by a 58% to 42% margin. And that sales tax over the last 22 years has allowed us to almost triple the bus fleet, increase our paratransit services, increase the regional express bus service to the surrounding counties, helped us build 19 miles of light rail and soon 4 miles of streetcar, and pretty much double overall transit ridership since 1998. So 22 years ago, when we were working on that effort, I don't think that any of us would have predicted all that was going to happen by 2020. However, today, I think that we can and should be able to see all the possibilities that are out ahead of us. I believe this transit plan has a chance to be much more transformative than the 1998 work we did, which was Mecklenburg County focused. And I believe this plan will be a catalyst for regional cooperation around public transportation. It will provide us 5, 10, and 20-year strategic work plans for implementing transit improvements that will connect and improve mobility for the residents across our 12-county region. It will lead to regional cooperation in the prioritization and programming of critical transit projects across MPO and county and state boundaries. It will lead to regional coordination of funding requests for state and federal funding. And then finally, it'll pull our citizens and elected officials together around a common vision, I think, and spur a collaborative discussion about how we fund this important regional initiative. So I'm really excited about the work that we're getting ready to undertake. And you know, with that perspective, since I've been around here pretty long, I guess now. So I remember, I want to close on just a couple personal thoughts. When I moved here in 1988, my son was 1, and then my 2 daughters were born in a couple years after that. So now they're 28, 30, and 32, and they live here in the Charlotte area, and 2 of them are married, and I have 4 grandchildren, 3 years and under. So I do spend a lot of time wondering about what kind of place this area will be for them in 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. Now, I didn't bring a slide, but I do have plenty of pictures on my phone. If you see me afterwards, I'll be happy to show you pictures of my grandchildren. But again, I want to thank everybody for being here. We do want to try and kind of commemorate the fact that, we're all here today, and 20 years from now, I think everybody's going to look back on today as kind of the, the jumping off point for what ends up being a regional transit plan. So we want to get everybody over here, I think over in the area of the clock, to get a big group picture. And then we also have a regional map that we want everybody to kind of sign your name to it. And again, this will help commemorate that all of you were here when this regional transit plan really started to get going. So thank you again.
So if you all could, Sabrina, where are we lining up? By the clock. So if everyone could just leave your things. We are actually 10 minutes ahead of schedule. So if everyone cooperates, we'll get you out of here on time. So leave your things, head over to the clock, and Sabrina and the HER team will get us all lined up.